expanded format, we've only gotten to look at it one round here, and we have the classic 1 versus 8 matchup. Brit Pybas, 10 wins, 0 losses, 4 draws. He's a former state champion, a multiple-time world championship qualifier, going up against the 8 seed, the last person to make it into this top cut, Jordan Nelle.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight one, you know. He's playing that Turbo Lugia deck, so it's really going to rely on getting that Lugia online as quickly as possible. If the deck fizzles out, it can sort of suffer against a lot of things.
And of course, let's get you involved. Let's get here on social media. Use the hashtag #PlayPokemon. Let us know who you're rooting for, the Team Plasma deck from Brit or the Zubat on Jordan's side.
You know, it's so hard not to be excited by the underdogs. You know, Zubat, Crobat, this actually made it in Expanded?
Yeah,
wow.
Crobat is sneaky, man. He's got the sneaky bites.
And it's quite a surprise as well, with Surprise Bite.
Right. So we see Brit starting off with that Plasma Kyurem. It's going to be a very, very good Pokemon against this Zubat, which is pretty low HP. Starts off with the Chorus Machine, gets a Plasma Energy on the active, and then he's going to search out that Deoxys EX with that Team Plasma Ball.
Oh man, so immediately you already see that Plasma Kyurem, even if it wants to do an attack like Frost Spear the next turn, it's 30 damage, Muscle Band that's 20 more damage, so you got 50, Deoxys EX is on the bench, it does 60, but he could even have access to Blizzard Burn as well if he attaches from hand and then attaches again the next turn.
Sure, Kyurem's going to put on all sorts of pressure. That Frost Spear early on can also set up knockouts later on for something like a Lugia EX, so I'm interested to see what's going to happen.
So far we see an opening N from Brit. Both players shuffle their hands into their decks and then draw cards equal to the amount of prize cards they have remaining. Both players refresh and draw 6.
Right, so one of the things is a Crobat deck, for example, could gain something like Level Ball, a card that rotated out, which we now see in the expanded format, can search for a Pokemon with 90 HP or less. Can really speed up these kinds of decks that have under 90 HP Pokemon like Zubat and Golbat.
You know how much I love Level Ball. It's just such a great card. I'm always a huge fan of these non-EX low HP Pokemon sort of working their way as the underdog. Level Ball is the underdog's item card.
Absolutely. So I'm honestly excited to see what kind of stuff these players came up with. I know Brit's got kind of a standard Team Plasma deck as he does get the double colorless energy onto the Lugia EX, but I don't know. What's Jordan going to surprise us with?
Yeah, we'll see. He opens with Karina, so it looks like this is the fighting variant. Going to try and grab, you know, you're going to see things like the Howlucha, like the Landorus EX, working alongside these Crobats.
Right, so Karina, I mean, I think he'll want to go for the Landorus EX right here, but the problem with Landorus EX is that it's weak to water. Kyurem happens to be water, so sure, you can do a Hammerhead here, but, I mean, you're going to get hit in the face pretty quickly by that water weakness.
Yeah, and so that might be why Jordan, we see, has fished out an interesting attacker. We've seen it sort of hit the discard pile, but never the playmat ready to attack. Lucario EX.
Josh, you've been waiting for this all weekend.
I have been waiting for it, Kyle. I love Lucario so much. It's a fan favorite, but it's just such a unique card, and it actually can apply some unique pressure as well. If it's able to pull up, for example, that Thundurus EX on the bench, it can destroy it with fighting weakness.
So we will see that Zubat get the free retreat with the free flight ability, retreat into that Lucario EX, and with the strong energy and the muscle band, he'll be able to use that missile jab for 70 damage. So now it looks like, oh, here comes the first of many roller skates. Brit's going to flip tails on that one. I'm sure he would have loved to get 3 extra cards, but
that's why I said it's a gambler's risk.
It's an interesting dynamic here with Lucario EX. He's weak to Psychic, unlike the Landorus, which is weak to Water. But don't forget Deoxys EX can attack too. It has that Helix Force attack, so if Lucario EX ever gets 2 energy on it, a Helix Force can keep it in check.
Yeah, there's such weird weakness dynamics. And that's one of the things that makes the Team Plasma deck so good. Look at this. We have 4 types of Pokemon cards on Brit's side of the field. Water, Psychic, Lightning, Colorless. It just allows you to hit for weakness and work your way against a variety of options.
Sure. So I think Brit certainly will be digging for some kind of way to power up Kyurem here. He has the colorless energy, the Team Plasma energy on there. He needs to get a water energy, meaning a prism or a rainbow energy to use Frost Spear.
Well, we do see another roller skates. He might actually have to dig in that way.
Oof. Roller skates comes up empty. I mean, he hits the skates, but doesn't find any way to provide that water energy cost.
Oh man. So Brit, unfortunately, you look at all these colorless energy. He can start, building up that Lugia EX on the bench. Oh, here comes another Skates.
This is pretty big flip,
boy.
I think.
And it's so big, he can't
table.
even contain it on the table.
Here we go, and
It
it
heads.
heads. Okay.
All right.
So we might
He's
see...
skating around. He used his circle pad on Pokemon X and Y, and he did find a Prism Energy.
Yeah, so those roller skates, boy, they are coming in great handy there. I mean, he's going to be able to use that Frost Spear, and this is going to be important because it can set up... Well, no, it looks like he's actually going for Deoxys EX instead of the Frost Spear.
Oh, and he could go very aggressive right now. Plays the Colress Machine, again, attaching another energy from his deck straight to his Pokemon. That's 2 in 1 turn, something a lot of decks can't claim they can do.
Yeah, but something to note about Deoxys EX, it has that power connect ability, adds 10 damage to all your Team Plasma Pokemon's attacks, but that does not include itself. So even though you have that power connect, Deoxys here won't be able to get a knockout. Helix Force going to be hitting for 60 base damage, 80 with the Muscle Band, and that's 160 with the weakness. So even though it's a ton of damage, it's going to be a little short.
So close, yeah. If Deoxys did buff itself, it would be perfect math, but without it, he's just going to be putting a ton of damage counters onto Lucario EX. Still great pressure. It's something that Kyurem could maybe sweep up later with Frost Spear, but how is Jordan going to respond? It's not like he can get this crazy Lucario and knock out Deoxys. It's not usually your attacker in these Team Plasma decks, but Deoxys EX is still a force to be reckoned with offensively.
Sure. So we do see VS Seeker coming for the Karina, so we can see Jordan search for another fighting Pokemon, perhaps a Landorus EX, and also an item card. So I'm curious to see what he's going to get here. There are all sorts of options. He runs all sorts of unique item cards. Even the Ace Spec card is pretty unique. And there it is, the Scoop Up Cyclone.
Ooh, this could be very good here. So this Lucario was barely able to survive here. Look at all those damage counters. Each pip on the die represents a damage. And 160, and wait, what? Where's it all going?
Whoop, back to the hand.
Whoop, there it is, yeah. Scoop Up Cyclone, we featured it yesterday in our sort of deck building sessions. It allows you to just pick up a Pokemon and everything attached to them. So Brit is left without a knockout there. Maybe going a little too aggressive too early with the Deoxys, and now all of that ridiculous damage is gone.
Yeah, I would say early on it seemed like Brit kind of had an advantage in this kind of a matchup. He has type advantage in pretty much every way, and you always have that Lugia EX waiting in the wings to get a big Plasma Gale. But we see a lot of different types of attackers for Jordan as well. We see the Lucario EX, which gives a different weakness. A Landorus EX, which can dish out some big damage and also hit the bench. Crobat can throw some extra damage in the mix. And one card I want to look at is Dedenne. Right, we've seen this in other matchups, but this can be very big against Lugia EX, which is weak to Lightning.
Lugia is mouse target number 1. It has a lot of energy. Dedenne attacks for more damage when your opponent has more energy attached. And Lugia is unfortunately lightning weak. I think if I had to say the greatest weakness on that card, that might be it.
Probably. So we see a big hammerhead there from Landorus EX, 70 damage to the Deoxys EX, 30 to the Kyurem on the bench. That means it's in range for a Crobat surprise bite next turn.
And that Kyurem, while it does have that water weakness that he could try and take advantage of on the Landorus EX, doesn't seem like he's going to be able to get that one-hit knockout. He has just a plasma energy attached to it. So you can't get two sort of like rainbow-colored energy or two blue energy waters to really deal with this Landorus immediately.
Right, and Brit just kind of seems like a victim of bad math right here. I mean, it's just all of Jordan's Pokemon are just so difficult to knock out. 180 HP. So you would really need all 4 of those Deoxys EX down to get a one-hit knockout on a Landorus EX, whether that's with Frost Spear or with Lugia EX's Plasma Gale. So he just seems to be a little bit short, and it's really showing here with all the damage that's built up on Brit's side.
Now we've seen Jordan sort of revealed he has all of these options to sort of reset the damage if you get close but not quite. So sometimes going really close to the distance but not all the way can feel like nothing when you just reset it all.
Right, that Scoop Up Cyclone definitely changed the pace of this game. I mean, without that, I think Brit would certainly be winning at this point, maybe by 2 or even 3 prizes if he managed to power up Lugia. So the Ace Spec card, the unusual choice of the Scoop Up Cyclone, a big, big game changer.
Yeah, what an exciting A-Spec that card is. Players, they really usually like to run their A-Spec as something that can help your consistency. You see Computer Search and Dowsing Machine almost undoubtedly is the most popular of the two, but it's always fun seeing a player run a utility card instead.
Yeah, especially when you can search it out with something like that Karina.
Yeah.
Now, we're going to see Deoxys EX stay in the fray a little bit longer. We just see that Helix Force for 80 damage to Landorus EX. That can set up for that Plasma Gale attack, or maybe even a Frost Spear. But this is actually a little bit scary for Brit. We could see some crazy things come out on Jordan's side. If Crobat comes into play, we could see the Surprise Bite, use the ability, knock out the Kyurem on the bench. And Deoxys is weak to Psychic. If we see a Muscle Band and a Crobat, we could even see a Skill Dive for 100. We could see a crazy 3-prize turn if Jordan goes that route.
Oh, man. So Jordan is looking through for options. Try to see what he's going to end up grabbing here. Is that the Karina he just played?
Yeah, he's playing the Karina. Looks like he's eyeing up the Hawlucha and then some item card he could go. He even plays Silver Bangle in the deck, so he's got all sorts of damage modifiers in here.
Hawlucha, always an exciting card against any EX-focused deck. One nice thing, though, is Hawlucha has an ability that allows him to bypass through your opponent's resistance. That Lugia EX on the bench, fighting resistant, but that does not matter when you're hit with a Hawlucha Flying Press.
Okay, we just saw something there. Jordan played the Karina. It only grabs fighting Pokemon.
On it, so it's really trying to work to become active soon. We're gonna see that little mouse. It has a commands a lot of attention, and that's exactly why. That Silver Bangle card, when attached, deals an extra 30 damage to your opposing EX Pokemon.
Wow, we're seeing all sorts of
old
taking advantage of the expanded
school
format. Pokemon Communication gets to shuffle in a Pokemon from his hand in order to search for any Pokemon in his deck. So we're seeing the Level Ball, the Communication. Jordan, he studied this expanded format very well.
It's very possible. Jordan has actually spent some time messing with these cards. One of, I think, the greatest weakness of players in Day 2 is they sort of put all their time into Day 1. You have to have a bit of confidence, I guess, to test for Day 2. Because if you don't even make it, why even put all the time in? So I think Jordan, you can see, he's calm, collected, and he really has this great anti-meta deck.
Yeah, this is really great right now. You can see Brit's almost a little confused. Maybe he's not used to dealing with this kind of a deck. That Scoop Up Cyclone probably caught him off guard a little bit. And he's in this position now where, if he goes with Lugia, Dedenne knocks him out. If he goes maybe like a Thunderous EX, well, that's weak to fighting.
Well,
that's
Thunderous EX would be especially awful because it gets knocked out with a weakness. Also, Deoxys has that perfect damage where he's a hammerhead away from being knocked out on the bench.
And not even just a hammerhead, a surprise bite from Crobat can knock it out, not even using an attack.
So we actually did see, like I sort of suggested, was knocking out that Dedenne. If you lose Lugia, you really lose one of your major tools in this matchup. It's just so funny to see someone so aggressively like, I could knock out his EX Pokemon or attempt to, but no, I got to get rid of that tiny mouse.
And here we see the first Crobat coming into play for Jordan.
Oh, surprise.
Surprise bite is going to really show an interesting dynamic here because he can use that to knock out Deoxys EX, not use an attack. He'll take 2 prizes. Brit has to now promote a new Pokemon, and Jordan can still attack whatever comes out.
Ooh, and what here do you even promote? The Deoxys stinks because it's got the 2 retreat cost, but it is a bullet sponge. Lugia, if it falls, you sort of lose your main offensive force. Thunderous gets immediately knocked out by Landorus. None of these are great picks.
Yeah, I wonder if, maybe going with the Thunderous EX, letting it get knocked out could be a decent play, and then storm back with the Lugia and try to end your opponent down to 1. Maybe that's a good strategy here, but Brit's saying, you know what? Lugia, it resists fighting. There's no real way you can knock this out since I took out your Dedenne. I think this is probably the safest play.
It probably is. It's going to take a few shots. That is maybe why Jordan went ahead and grabbed the Hawlucha. I think if we saw a Flying Press here, that would be pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, that could hit for some good damage, hits past the resistance, and maybe if he can get one of those Fighting Stadium, he plays 3 of them in his deck. He hasn't been able to find one. He can hit for some additional damage.
So we go ahead, we see a Professor Juniper, discards his whole hand to draw 7 cards. Oh, I see him just drawing a lot of supporters. Oftentimes when you play your supporter, you want to see like maybe 1 supporter, something to refresh the draw for next turn. But when your whole hand is a bunch more, they're not playable. You can only play 1 supporter card a turn.
Sure, and Jordan, I think he got a little bit greedy there. He had a Professor's Letter in his hand before he played the Juniper. He was trying to draw strong energy to hit for some additional damage. Looks like he missed the strong energy, and he also doesn't have a basic energy. So his only real attacking option this turn would be to hit with Landorus EX that's in range of being knocked out by Plasma Gale.
I know that fallacy. You're like, okay, I can draw 7 cards. I'm going to hit 1 energy, right? I don't need to play this letter. He does only run 9 total energy as well. So, maybe the odds weren't so much in his favor. But it can really feel like it.
Yeah, and he might just put up a Pokemon that's at full HP and kind of pass the turn, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He recognizes, using this Hammerhead with a damaged Landorus, not a good idea. I'm going to get knocked out by Lugia, give up 3 prizes, and give Brit great position in this game. Now, with 1 Deoxys EX already in the discard pile, there's no way for him to hit 180 damage in a single turn.
Okay, so we do see 2 double colorless energy on Lugia EX. However, he needs a Plasma Energy in order to attack with Plasma Gale.
Right, so he's going to need to find a Colress machine this turn to try to do that.
Not only that, but he can't draw his Colress energy as well because they can only be attached straight from the deck. So this is going to be a pretty game-changing Colress here.
Sure, I don't think Brit would even attack if he did happen to draw into the Colress machine here, though. If you're using Plasma Gale, you always want it to be a knockout. You don't want to hit a Lucario EX for 170 and then just have it run away.
He needs another Deoxys, which he has lost. So the math, again, just not in his favor.
180 HP is actually really difficult for Lugia to get because you need all 4 of those Deoxys EX on the bench. 170 is really the magic number you like to go after with Lugia. That's something like Yveltal EX, Mewtwo EX, all sorts of Pokemon EX that are really good. But in this situation, Landorus and Lucario have shown just how strong they are.
Now, did he just attach that energy from hand to the Thundurus on the bench?
He did. I think that's the second attachment we've seen. So hopefully a judge might catch that. He's already attached for the turn with the double colorless energy and now with the prism energy. I don't think.
Oh, and he did actually. It seems either judge or himself has been able to recognize it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, though, this puts him in a sort of rough spot. It's can't attack.
Yeah, and it looks like they're making him play the switch, which is really unfortunate. And he's actually going to concede the game after that. He realizes he's put in a very bad spot, and, well, that's it. Jordan actually takes the first game. Wow, what crazy sequence of events.
I really love seeing sort of these off-kilter decks, bunch of Crobats and fighting. We've seen it have a few struggles here or there in some of the matches that we looked at over yesterday, but today it looked pretty good.
Yeah, even though Brit is the first seed here, he's got 10 wins and 4 draws, no losses at all. He looked a little flustered in that game. It looked like Jordan kept throwing stuff at him that he wasn't expecting. He kept ending up 10, 20 damage short of knockouts, and he was almost unsure of how to approach that, but I'm sure he learned a lot about Jordan's deck in that game, and now he'll know how to respond in the second game.
Yeah, he did. He knows Dedene's coming. He knows that he needs to find some way to get around those 180 HP Pokemon, something, like the Lucario. He knows he needs to get through the Landorus EX. It's crazy just throwing up a Lucario with 180 HP. If it had 10 less HP, that's a completely different story.
Sure.
He gets a 3-prize knockout, and then there's 1 giant Lugia away from solving it. But when you can't deal it, you lost the Deoxys, it hurts. So even though he wants to be aggressive with Deoxys to get a knockout on Lucario, if you lose one of them, you lose that crazy combo.
That's right, and sometimes you can just get into awkward positions like that with the Team Plasmid deck. Deoxys, definitely the lifeblood of the deck. Without all 4 of those at your disposal, those knockouts are harder to come by, and when you can't get one-hit knockouts, this deck suffers a lot.
Yeah, with Deoxys, praise Helix, Force, the ability. But without them, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, so if you're Brit, I'm sure, he's a very experienced tournament player. He knows.
Oh, I know he is. I've tested with Brit many years. He really is a great player.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
It speaks wonders, that the 8th seed is able to really fluster the first seed. Someone so experienced.
Sure. I mean, Brit, multiple-time world championship competitor. He's going to learn from this and figure out some way to rebound.
So we see Brit open. Deoxys EX starter, even when you run 4 of them, it's still not the card you want to see. 2 retreat cost it's just a little bit too much. It's not enough to ruin your game, but it's enough to annoy you. And that's why you often run many different cards to switch out.
This is going to be a much better start for Brit, though, as he starts off, gets a Prism Energy on to the Thundurus EX. He's setting up for that Ride Knuckle on the next turn. 3 Deoxys EX hit the board in this game, and he goes right for that Curum.
Yeah. One scary thing with the Ride Knuckle is it doesn't really touch Landorus EX. He can sort of pile up damage really quickly, but one really important thing for him is accelerating energy. So you got to find a balance between the two, and he really wants to be able to just destroy this Landorus EX with the water-powerful Kyurem.
You know, even with the lightning resistance on Landorus EX, you do still hit for a decent chunk of damage with the Ride Knuckle. I mean, with those power connects from Deoxys EX, you can easily set up for just a Frost Spear knockout on Kyurem, and I think that's what Brit might go for this game.
So Jordan, we see opening with the Fighting Stadium. I don't think he was able to play any down last game, but here, his fighting Pokemon will be able to deal an extra 20 damage to Brit's Pokemon EX, which is everything on his board right now except for the Kyurem.
Right, and you know, even though Jordan pulled out all sorts of crazy stuff in the first game, he didn't actually show everything at his disposal. We still see some interesting cards like AZ that he plays multiple copies of, more ways to kind of heal his Pokemon that could maybe frustrate Brit if he doesn't know about them.
I couldn't tell you the last time I saw a deck with more than one AZ in it. And it's one of those things. If you can't get a knockout, you can just scoop up Cyclone Jump, AZ Jump. It's just little things. And not only does that prevent damage on your EXs, but it could reset the bats as well.
Right, and we do see the level ball coming in handy once again, just the one card way to get your Zubat out. No discard like Ultra Ball would have. And you know, once you start getting those Zubats out, you can start to threaten with Golbat and Crobat pretty soon with those surprise and sneaky bites.
Yeah, level ball no longer legal in our standard format, but Jordan is taking full advantage of its availability here in Expanded.
So after that end to 6, both players drawing those 6 cards. We see that strong energy coming out, and then a Fighting Stadium. That's already going to add up to 70 damage for 1 energy. So 70 to the active and the 30 to a benched Pokemon as well.
So big thing we're going to see here is, will Brit be able to move this Deoxys, push up the Kyurem, take advantage of all of those power connects, and deal incredible amounts of damage to this water-weak Landorus?
I'm interested to see what strategy Brit will actually take here. Will he go for a Lugia EX, try to go that route, or will he just try to get the 4 Deoxys out and go for the big Frost Spear knockout here?
And the great thing about Frost Spear is you can still, just follow up the next turn, deal crazy blizzard damage.
Right, and Brit needs, I mean, if he's going this route, I think he needs to kind of go for the home run. He needs a Prism or a Rainbow Energy. He runs both. Both those could power up that Frost Spear, and he also needs a Muscle Band. And
Well,
he also
here comes
needs
the
a
skates.
Switch.
He hits heads on the skates. 3 cards. That could help find some things.
Yeah, it could, like that Muscle Band and that Prism Energy. How about that?
Oh boy, Muscle Band Prism. Now all he needs is the Switch.
Wow, yeah, if he can find the Switch here, he'll jump out the gates immediately and get a big knockout.
Look at all those Muscle Bands on Brit's side of the field.
Yeah, he can get a turn 2 prize knockout with Frost Spear, and that would just be an absolute game changer.
He's going turbo. He's playing this Team Plasma Ball, I'm sure, just to thin a card out of his deck. Yeah, his bench is full, so this Lugia is probably just going to hit the discard pile off of Juniper, isn't it?
Sure, he plays 3 of them, so you don't actually need all 3 copies of Lugia EX most of the time, especially if you're going with this Kyurem strategy. So he's saying, I want to maximize my odds of drawing a Switch here.
He's all in, yeah. Switch or bust. And, oh, I think I see it in the middle.
I think so too. And that's going to be a great way for Brit to start this game. That's going to put on extreme amounts of pressure if he can switch, do this Frost Spear, do 180 damage to that Pokemon EX. With just a non-EX Pokemon, take 2 prizes on the second turn of the game.
So here's a switch. So this is going to be a little crazy, but the math checks out. So you've got Frost Spear. It deals 30 base damage, plus 20 from the Muscle Band. That's 50. Plus 40 from 4 Power Connect Deoxys EX. That's 90. Times 2 for Landorus Weakness. That's the perfect 180. Yeah. We saw how bad the math was for Brit last game. Now it's getting a little bit better.
And you see the difference between 3 and 4 Deoxys on the bench. If you have 3, that's not a knockout. Maybe we see Jordan play that scoop up Cyclone, deny more prizes. But when you get that 4th down, that changes it entirely, and it turns into a knockout, and now Jordan has to play the game completely differently.
And one painful thing about this Hawlucha, who is currently in the active spot, is it cannot even attack the Kyurem. Flying Press is an attack that only activates its damage if your opponent is an EX. And while he just took EX-sized damage, Kyurem is still a normal basic Pokemon.
Right, and one of the scary things on Jordan's side is he's going for this Lucario EX. That's one of the things that's not weak to Kyurem, and so he's probably going to try to use that as his attacker, try to missile jab. but if Brit just attaches one more Prism or Rainbow Energy, he can Blizzard Burn for 180 damage and wipe out the Lucario as well.
Yeah, that Blizzard Burn is in perfect numbers with the Quad Deoxys.
And there we go. There's the Lucario EX. Does have a strong energy, maybe with a Muscle Band. It's still not going to be quite enough with Golbat's Sneaky Bite, but it's getting close.
Well, here it comes. Sneaky Bite for dropping an additional 2 damage counters.
Looks like he's actually going to favor going on the Deoxys in this case, and then he's going to use the Missile Jab here for 50 damage, putting that up to about 80 damage, it looks like.
Oh, that is scary. This Kyurem is going to get such incredible value as long as Brit can attach another water energy to it.
Yep, I mean, it's not a given. Brit only runs 4 Prism Energy, 1 Rainbow Energy. He's got 2 of those cards in play already, so really only 3 left, but if he can find that computer search...
Computer search.
Oh, there you go.
If he can. He knows he can. Brit's going all in, and I really like this sort of aggressive strategy. Not even necessarily relying on weakness, while he did earlier, but the Kyurem, it's just so strong, it can knock out EXs. It doesn't matter what type you are.
Yeah, 180 damage. That's ridiculous. I mean, the Frost Spear, turn 2, he's going to take 2 prizes. The Blizzard Burn, turn 3, he's going to take 4 prizes. He's going to be able to take 4 prizes in 3 turns, and that's just pretty silly.
Oh, man. Kyurem just might sweep the entire game at this rate.
It's going to be tough. I mean, there is 80 damage on it already, so all sorts of things could knock it out. And, of course, being this aggressive, it is a little bit risky. You never know if your opponent can play an N and disrupt you.
Yeah, well, he does have an energy on the Thunderous EX ready to go. Ride Knuckle is sort of a great fallback attack when you need to start drawing energy back onto your field. It's you got 4 Deoxys there on the bench. Those do not like being Lysandered up after an N. Can't play both in the same turn, but you can end them first. They're sort of left without their resources. Then you can follow up. There's a few things that Jordan could do to pull a surprise comeback.
Sure. So at this point, though, you got to think Brit is the absolute favorite.
Oh, yes.
He's got this monster Kyurem. It doesn't look like much, 120 damage, but it's turning into 180 damage. Going to wipe out 2 Pokemon EX in 2 straight turns. And Jordan, I mean, he has to deal with this Kyurem. He has to knock it out, otherwise he's in danger of losing.
Oh, and there it is. Blizzard Burn just wipes out the clean Lucario EX, and we see the concession. We're moving to Game 3.
Wow, so talk about turning the tables there. I mean, Jordan pretty much dominated that first game. Brit comes out, gets the 4 Deoxys EX in play, and with 1 Kyurem, pretty much wins the game.
Yeah, you get 4 Deoxys down. It's the perfect math. 3, it gets tricky. So, even if you have just 1 Deoxys prized, that changes quite a bit. He's not getting those one-hit knockouts. He's activating things from Jordan where he can just heal everything all over again. Without it, or with it even, it's just so good. You can see how strong this turbo deck is.
Yeah, and both decks are kind of super aggressive kinds of decks. You see how quickly Brit can win the game with this Team Plasma Pokemon. Those Deoxys EX, the Muscle Band. He hasn't even used Lugia EX to take additional prize
we
cards.
call this deck Turbo Lugia. You don't even need the Lugia. It's a toolbox. There's so many different plasma attackers that you can just throw in, attack with. Why not?
And then on the other side, you have Jordan with these hard-hitting Landorus EX, Lucario EX, the Golbat and the Crobat to do additional damage. Both players being extremely aggressive, and I'm interested to see who's going to come out on top in the third game.
And one thing I'm really excited for is because both these first 2 matches went through so quickly, I think we're going to see a definitive Game 3 to decide who's moving on from top 8 to top 4.
Right, and this is it. I mean, this is single elimination. We've reached that stage in the tournament. Winner moves on, loser goes home. So the winner of this game will advance and still be in the running to be the regional champion.
The stakes are real now, and this is it. This is Game 3. Both players have had sort of a taste of what victory feels like, but only one of them is going to leave with that flavor.
Yeah, I mean, based on the first 2 games, who do you think is going to win?
It's rough because the matchup bounces so... It hinges so much on whether or not Brit has 4 Deoxys. It really does. That 180 damage or whether he wants to set up that perfect Frost Spear double weakness thing. It really hinges on if he can get that, if he can get the Colress machines and such. I guess it's rough. I know Brit better, so I think I favor him a little bit. He did open double Deoxys, though, which isn't incredible. So we'll see how that goes.
All right, so here we go. Game number 3 to decide it all right here. Top 8 at the 2015 Winter Regional Championship between Brit Pybas and Jordan Nelle.
So right away we see Jordan going aggressive Juniper. He's got a whole variety of different Pokemon. Strong energy ready to go, so he can apply a lot of pressure with that Landorus when he can attack next turn. Communication to put another Landorus back in.
Brit once again starting off with Deoxys EX, not his favored starter, but at least he has 2 of them, right? You want to at least get them into play quickly so that you can get those damage boosts right away.
Oh my goodness. I'm looking at Brit's hand and it just looks awful. Oh, he does have a Sycamore to clean up. I saw no Sycamore for a while. I was like, oh wow, that's draw pass territory.
Yeah, he should be okay. You know, in a perfect world, I think he would try to draw a Kyurem or a Team Plasma Ball. He could really put on some pressure if he had an actual attacker, not just his Deoxys. But on Jordan's side, this is huge. 2 Zubat hit the board, Fighting Stadium, Strong Energy, Muscle Band. That's pretty scary.
So Jordan goes ahead, retreats the more fragile Zubat in favor of Hawlucha. Has a bit more HP, sort of as a buffer. He doesn't necessarily need the Hawlucha right away. But that Landorus is going to come in hard. It's got Muscle Band ready to go, Strong Energy. Who knows how much damage that thing's doing next turn. There's Fighting Stadium in play as well.
Okay, now Brit drew an extremely interesting card, Computer Search. Now, this can allow him to search for any card, but he has to discard 2 of his cards. And if it were up to him, he wouldn't actually want to discard any of them. He has a Colress Machine, a Muscle Band, a Prism Energy, a Switch, a Professor Sycamore. All cards he would love to just have, but he has to discard 2 of them and come up with the best scenario for him to attack this turn.
So it looks like he opted for Muscle Band and maybe the Colress Machine. And he can search for any card out of his deck, and he's certainly going to check and see what's prized.
Yeah. I mean, when you're playing the Team Plasma deck, things you look for. How many Deoxys EX are in my deck? How many Plasma Energy are in my deck? Those are usually the 2 big ones.
So it seemed he opted for the Kyurem, it seems?
Yeah. I mean, that's a smart choice. I mean, that's your main attacker against Landorus EX. If he can pull off a Frost Spear this turn, maybe hit it on the bench for 30, that's going to set it up for a Frost Spear next turn, and he won't even need all 4 Deoxys for the knockout.
Yeah, you guys saw that last game. That Kyurem put in an immense amount of work. Brit realizing, well, you know, I don't really need to waste time with the Lugia here, do I? I'm going aggro. So he had the Switch in hand, Sycamore, drawing 7. He'd love to see a Colress Machine.
Yeah, that's #1 card he'd like to see here now.
Ooh.
Colress Machine to get him that Plasma Energy out of the deck and get a nice attack turn 1. If not, I mean, Landorus is going to get the first.
I don't see it yet, but he plays Roller Skates Tails. He has 2 Plasma Energy in hand, which can sometimes be a little detrimental. The Colress Machine can only fetch them out of the deck. You know, if he's got 2 prized, for example, you can get the extremely disappointing Colress for no energy. But until then, Kyurem is left active without an attack yet.
Yeah, not a favorable situation. It all really changed on whether or not Brit could attack right there. I think he did the right thing. He discarded the right cards with the Computer Search. You know, it kind of gave him the best odds. You know, it also left him in the best position. If he did miss the turn 1 attack, he at least has the Prism Energy down. But now, Jordan gets the first opportunity to get the hit in. He can Hammerhead and put some pressure back on Brit.
So Jordan does opt to play Jirachi, using his Stellar Guidance to search his deck for a supporter card. I'm not sure if he had another one in his hand that was able to actively draw. There is a very small window where he could...
he got ahead of himself there.
He's getting the Karina for those pieces. I was like, wow, that is an interesting way to use the Jirachi.
Yeah,
okay.
Jirachi doesn't search for a Pokemon in an item card. No, he gets
Neither of those are
Karina.
valid. I was so confused.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like miracles that could happen if he had like 2 Gold Bats and 1 additional Strong Energy. You could one-shot. But I think he's playing the safe route. He says, well, this Lucario is not water weak. Let's soften up the Kyurem active so I can knock it out with something else next turn.
Yeah, and that's a smart play. You know, he's just alternating weaknesses, knowing, you know, if I attack with Landorus EX, good chance Kyurem can maybe even knock out my Landorus. So let's soften it up with Lucario. I know there's absolutely no way Lucario is getting knocked out. Then maybe next turn you can go with the Scoop Up Cyclone or the AZ to pick up Lucario after he's done the dirty work.
So Brit goes ahead, slaps a Plasma Energy onto his Kyurem just so he can Frost Spear this turn, then plays N. He didn't really like all those cards in his hand. They were sort of just I guess you call it a clunker. You know, you got all these cards, and you're like, I can't really play any of these. So he opts for the Shuffle Draw. Shuffling in, drawing 6, hopefully getting a fresh start here.
Yeah, and I'm sure he would love to see something like a Colress Machine at this point, power up his next Kyurem. or maybe even get a Deoxys EX ready for a Helix Force. But we'll see
He's
what he
having a
draws.
hard time finding those machines.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess he can Frost Spear here for 50. He doesn't even have a Muscle Band, it looks like, so it's going to be a relatively weak Frost Spear. Maybe he can grab another Deoxys EX here with his Team Plasma Ball, but the 50 damage doesn't necessarily set up any great knockouts.
Yeah, and speaking of 50 damage, it actually is pretty bad because if this Kyurem remains active, Lucario can attach another energy and just Corkscrew Smash.
Right? It's going to be perfect math. Even just a regular fighting energy will hit for 80 and finish off the Kyurem.
Yeah, and he even has Muscle Band anyway, so he can really hit through. But Corkscrew Smash is a great attack if you can limit down your hand because it allows you to draw until you have 6.
Yeah. Now, Brit played another Roller Skates, got heads on that one.
Oh.
He does find the Muscle Band, but he just cannot find those Colress Machine anywhere.
Yeah, and that's such a fundamental part to this game. If you're not opening like the Thunderous to ride and Knuckle energy, you need to get the machine. You need one or the other. It's going to be hard for him. He's going to need to get some pretty choice draws if this Kyurem gets knocked out, and he wants to follow up with another one on the bench.
Now, Brit opting to hit the Zubat on the bench with Frost Spear. I think he's just trying to put pressure on forcing Jordan to evolve those immediately. Otherwise, he's going to be able to get a free prize. But I'm not sure if that's the right strategy. You know, he could just evolve to Golbat, but it's at least going to put pressure on and maybe get Brit some cheap prize cards.
Yeah, I mean, when you see something like the Jirachi EX on the bench, it's always very tempting. Like, oh, if I can get a couple of Frost Spears, all of a sudden I can drop this thing for an easy 2-prize EX knockout on the bench. I know he is also aware, though, that Jordan runs different ways where he can just pick Pokemon up.
Right. I think maybe going after Landorus EX is a nice move because you can set up for a Frost Spear knockout even if you don't have all 4 Deoxys out. But opting to go for the Zubat, I can understand. You want to get those prizes immediately. So we see another N here. Both players shuffling in, drawing 6 cards. I'm sure Brit's probably happy with that. He didn't have a Colress Machine. Maybe this gives him another opportunity to draw one. But there is the Corkscrew Smash.
It is a Corkscrew Smash knockout, but he doesn't get to draw any cards from it.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about Corkscrew Smash is that it's draw and power.
So we see Deoxys EX coming up after the knockout. Now the Lucario EX has 2 energy on it. It's in perfect range for Helix Force to get the knockout here. Here comes the Colress Machine, finally drawing one. Taking a look at how many Plasma energy are left in his deck. And if he can get a Plasma and a Prism, can easily get the knockout.
It's funny because I was pretty sure Brit did not have one in his hand last turn, just a bunch of Plasma energy. But that N that Jordan played allowed him to get some new options.
Right, and we do see the energy going on to Deoxys EX. Looks like he's going for the pretty obvious knockout here. Look at the Prism energy down, you know, kind of keep up pace here. But you got to look at the overall game here. I'm wondering, how is Brit going to attack this to take all of his prizes? Is he going to continue to go the Kyurem route, or is he going to go for that Lugia EX that we just saw him put down?
Well, I guess that answers your question.
A little bit.
I think, you know, sometimes you got to do the math. Like, Deoxys is an answer to a problem immediately. It's not really a long-term answer to something like Landorus. It sort of gives him something to chip into. But Lugia can really take the game, especially when you have something like Jirachi on the bench. That's 3 prizes.
Sure. Now, right here, we see an extremely explosive draw from Brit. Colress for 10 cards. 2 full benches means 5 bench Pokemon on each side. That's 10 cards. He gets a fresh hand. That is so many cards.
It's just like one of the strongest draw cards in the format right now. It's weird because you can't depend on it in the early game. Players don't have fully developed benches. But the later you get, that card is ridiculous. 10 cards. That is 1/6 of your deck, even less when you take into account prize cards in your opening hand.
Right, and based on what just happened, I think Brit's 4th Deoxys is prized. He played 2 Team Plasma Balls, didn't even bother to look through his deck, just kind of shuffled his deck, saying, you know what, these Team Plasma Balls aren't going to be doing anything for me because maybe Deoxys number 4 is prized.
Well, I did mention one of the biggest things this matchup can hinge on is whether or not he can get all 4 Deoxys in play. Without it, he's seeming to sort of diversify his board. Like, oh, I have a Lugia option, I have a Kyurem option, I can ride a Knuckle, maybe set things back up. It's interesting to see how Jordan's going to respond. Hawlucha can drop a lot of damage.
It can, but, I mean, if you do that, then, you know, you can be knocked up by Thunderous EX's Ride Knuckle. It's weak to Lightning, it's an easy knockout, and that could set up Brit for maybe a massive 3-prize turn with Lugia EX to win. So you got to be very careful if you're Jordan. One wrong move here can be the end of this match and the end of this tournament for you.
So he opts to Sneaky Bite, dropping 2 damage counters onto the benched Kira.
Yeah, I think he figures that's going to be coming into the fray at some point. So if he can get some damage on it now, maybe Landorus EX can finish it off later with a couple strong energy and, Hammerhead.
So goes ahead, plays Versus Seeker. Seems he grabbed an N with that.
Oh, he's going with a Hawlucha.
Flying press, baby.
And it looks like another Hawlucha coming down onto the bench, followed by an N. So he's going to take away Brit's massive 10-card hand and put it down to a 4-card hand.
Well, this Hawlucha will likely fall to Deoxys EX. Actually, maybe not so likely. We'll see. It would need a muscle band.
Yeah, I think maybe Brit might go for a Ride Knuckle knockout. I think at this point his best plan of attack would be take the 1 prize knockout on Hawlucha, use Ride Knuckle to power up Lugia EX, and then try to target down that Jirachi EX on the bench for a game-winning Plasma Gale. That seems like the easiest path to victory. There are others, but I feel like that might be the simplest one.
It is a scary exchange. It all comes back down to weakness. If for example Thundurus goes active, then Landorus has the hit. It seems Jordan instead opts to go ahead, retreat to Landorus and Hammerhead.
So there we go. That's going to be pretty much Darkrai's Night Spear. That's going to be a 90 damage Hammerhead and 30 to the bench. And he seems to be picking on that Kyurem. He thinks, you know what? I think Kyurem is going to become inactive. I don't think my opponent will be doing anything else. Sending up Thundurus EX is a sure knockout, right? It's already doing 90 times 2. So what's my opponent going to do here? Helix Force, then the Deoxys gets knocked out. There's just no good solution for Brit at this point.
So Brit, he's still again. Oh, another Colress. Maybe Colress can search his deck and try and find one of his faithful machines. He has not played that many this game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many Colress machine or plasma energy he has left, but I feel like this game is really getting into crunch time here. The Deoxys has 90 damage. Hammerhead can knock that out next turn. You can see how strong Landorus EX is with all the fighting stadium. Strong energy, muscle band. A 1 energy attack for 90 can be a 2-hit knockout on Deoxys. And again, 180 HP. Brit cannot get a 1-hit knockout on the Landorus.
He cannot. It's just, you need 4 Deoxys in order to sweep that out. He does have double colorless energy, which he opts to attach from hand to Lugia. Maybe that can help him close a game out. But he, I think, really wanted to have that Kyurem option available.
Yeah, so Brit, he's just going to hit the Landorus EX for 60 with Helix Force, setting up for the Plasma Gale next turn. If he can find Colress Machine, another energy, use that Plasma Gale attack, hit for 3 prizes, and then just 1 more knockout wins him this match. I wonder if Jordan can find that Scoop-Up Cyclone here, though, to kind of nullify that strategy.
Well, he went Versus Seeker for Karina. We know Karina can search your deck for an item card.
And I think if I'm Jordan, that's exactly what I'd go for. If Scoop-Up Cyclone's there, I'm taking that immediately. Right, if you can just pick up your Landorus EX, remove all the damage from it, you can just play it right back down, put all the stuff back on it, Hammerhead for the knockout, and take away that option your opponent has for that big Plasma Gale.
Yeah, he's got a couple of cool plays. He can do that. He puts a lot of pressure on Kyurem. He could even just attack with Hawlucha, keep Landorus in his hand, maybe drop when he needs to. He can build energy on the Landorus. He's just in a play where he has a lot of creative moves. We don't see the Scoop-Up Cyclone, though.
Yeah, I wonder if that's prized. Maybe it's in his hand already or it's prized. Those are the 2 things I would think of. Or maybe he's got another plan up his sleeve. I'm not sure what that would be. He just grabbed Level Ball with the Karina. There's no great Pokemon to take with that. There's 2 Golbat on the board already. So I'm not sure. I guess he's just going with the Hammerhead.
Man, that seems like a kind of almost like a defeated play. Like the Level Ball really does nothing to enhance your game right now. I don't know if he has a strategy involved with it. It could get, like a Hawlucha or one of those basic Zubat pieces, but it's not really actively helping him.
Well, it could get him that Dedenne that could be really big if Lugia EX comes out.
Oh, so, yeah. It's been so long since I've seen the little rodent. Would love to see it go for its intended purpose. That would be a cruel way to counter Lugia if it goes active.
Yeah, Brit's actually in a very tricky territory right now. That Kyurem on the bench has 100 damage. If a Crobat comes out, we could see the Surprise Bite get the knockout on the Kyurem. And then all we need after that is an EX knockout. So Jordan could potentially win next turn in the right circumstances.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not out of the question. We haven't seen him actually evolve those Golbats up to Crobat, I think, in any of these series. Maybe just a time or two, but that's 6 potential counters that he can drop if he can find them both.
Yeah, I mean, even just a Crobat and a Lysander to bring up Thunderous EX, that could be a game-winning play, right? He just needs to take 3 prizes somehow. One is pretty easy, evolve to Crobat, put the 3 damage counters on Kyurem, get the knockout there, put you down to 2 prizes, then any EX knockout is game over. So Jordan, he's looking really good right now.
On Brit's side, I believe we see the 3rd Colress, once again for 10. You'd think off 10 cards he could find those pieces that he needs so badly.
I would think so. So, oh no, I think the Chorus got him, the Chorus machine, but
that's a lot of plasma energy in his hand.
Those could be his last 2 plasma energy in the deck, so Chorus machine won't even work.
Oh boy, he's doing the count on his discard pile right now.
Oh, how unlucky is that? You get the card you wanted, the Chorus machine, but the plasma energy you need to take out of the deck, they're in your hand. You can't even use it.
Oh, that hurts so much. There is no possible way for Lugia EX to attack without that plasma energy on it. And there's also no possible way to get plasma energy on and do the Plasma Gale attack without a Colress machine attaching one of them.
And, you know, if you're Brit there, you got to think, boy, that was probably my last missed opportunity. You can see, I mean, Brit can definitely see the writing on the wall here. This game could be over very shortly. Just need a Crobat or even just a Lysander, brings out Thunderous, does the Hammerhead for 180, and also finishes off Kyurem for the mighty 3-prize finisher.
Oh, man, and you can only imagine the frustration he has right now. He wasn't able to do anything to limit, for example, like Jordan's hand. Jordan has a fairly large hand, probably has a lot of tools, able to close this game out. And I don't even know if this Landorus will fall.
It doesn't look like it will. The last 2 plasma energy are in Brit's hand. I think he'll just have to attach and pass the turn, which is really unfortunate.
That hurts. That hurts so much. So Jordan draws. Does he have a Lysander?
I mean, if he does, that's it. That's game over. If he doesn't, I mean, the game will go on. There are still opportunities for something different to happen here. We do see the Pokemon communication, so a Crobat certainly will come out. But, I mean, yeah, if he doesn't have a Lysander, he actually won't be able to win this turn, I don't think.
It's one of those things, like, he can grab a prize right now with the Crobat, dropping 3 damage counters under the bench Kyurem. Perhaps he can grab 1 prize, and maybe that's his Lysander. You can gain a card that way. It's a strange way to draw a card, but it works. Looks like he's opting for 3 damage counters on the Lugia.
That's another strategy you can take. You know, just put the damage on Lugia, Hammerhead here. It's still going to hit for 70 damage, knock out the Kyurem on the bench, and now you just have the Howlucha ready to go. Even if Landorus falls, Howlucha can clean up the game.
We were right about that prize Scoop Up Cyclone. It was the one that he just picked up.
There you go. So now, Brit, boy, what do you do? Both of your Kyurem are gone. There's only 60 damage on the Landorus.
Even if you knock out the Landorus, Lugia is now in Howlucha range.
Your Thunderous is not an option. It gets knocked out immediately by Hammerhead. Brit doesn't play any counter stadiums. He doesn't play anything like a Tool Scrapper or Enhanced Hammer to alter Jordan's side at all. So it's really just not looking good at all.
It's so rough. You know, maybe he can, like Plasma Energy and pull up some kind of immediate threat like Howlucha and knock it out. But still, the Lugia is extremely fragile. Yeah. He's just running out of steam.
Yeah, I think maybe Brit's only hope is that exact play. Use Lysander, bring up Howlucha, and just cross your fingers. Hope he doesn't have a way to deal that last 80 damage.
And you can just see the frustration on his face. Like, this game actually started fairly well for him, but man, when you're missing that Deoxys, you lose that out. You got to play a little differently, and he does have the Lysander. You see him eyeing it, like, oh well, do I have to do this? I think I have to do this.
Realistically, I think he has probably 2 ways to play this. Number 1, he could go for the Lysander play, bring up Howlucha, Plasma Gale for the knockout, cross his fingers that his Lugia survives. Number 2 would just be maybe retreat into Deoxys, try to power up the other Lugia, and try to go that route. It's going to be more difficult, but he's going for the Lysander route. He's bringing up the Howlucha, and it's all going to be on Jordan.
Oh boy. So this Plasma Gale does take 2 prize cards on the Howlucha, would normally be 1. Jordan draws. Does he have an out? Level ball.
Does have the level ball. He's going to finish this game in style.
Dayne, the mouse is in the house. Oh, is he going to do it? Energy.
Energy short for the win. Looks like Jordan Nelle. Even the
he's
silver
just slapping
bangle.
it on. That's just disrespect.
He's going to finish it off. 180 damage. And Jordan Nelle is going to take this top 8 match, knocking out the #1 seed, Brit Pybas.
How many turns ago was it when he grabbed that level ball?